Candice.
Hey.
What's your favorite color?
It is, at the moment, it's green. It used to be blue, but yeah.
Do you like cooking?
I do. I cook a lot, actually. Basically every day.
What's the first thing you do when you wake up?
The first thing I do is stretch. Over the lockdown period, I discovered this YouTuber that it's like, oh, how to do yoga when you wake up to awaken your body. So I've been doing that every day now because I also have a bad back, so it really helps me with my back problems. That makes me sound really old, but yeah.
And what's the last thing you do when you go to sleep?
The last thing I do, probably check my phone, which I probably shouldn't because people say that you should not be looking at a screen 30 minutes to an hour before you go to bed because it keeps you awake and stuff.
But don't we all?
Yeah, basically. So, yeah.
It's a nice walk today, huh?
Yeah. Look at these boat houses. They're so cute.
Alright.
Would you want to live in a boathouse?
I don't know about that, to be honest.
Why not?
It's just not my style, maybe.
What do you mean? Can you elaborate?
I mean, I would like a bathroom and a shower.
I'm pretty sure they have showers in here.
I don't want to live on the water, though.
You don't?
No.
Isn't that such a cool concept? I mean, it's probably like...
That was about 3 years ago, wasn't it?
Oh.
Oh my god, that's so... Okay, yeah, the idea of living on a boat is pretty sick, but I feel like I probably would get sick of it after a week.
Yeah. Exactly.
My cayuse, let me wander over yonder till I see the mountains rise. I want to ride through the ridge where the west commences and gaze.
Got a little picnic basket. I mean, not basket. Why do you keep saying?
Why do you keep on saying
I
basket?
don't know, dude. I don't know.
Oh, that was my prison blanket.
Your prison. Don't be so dramatic.
Dramatic.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna take off my shoes because I want to be
too.
comfortable. There's a guy doing kung fu over there. I'm gonna get some water. Would you like some?
Yes, please. Thank you. How are you enjoying this day today?
Well, we were supposed to go to Seven Sisters today, but accidents happen, and it's been pretty chill. And listening to your fun adventures last night has been very fun for me.
I'm glad I can provide entertainment of some sort.
Thanks. This is what roommates are for.
I've been meaning to ask you this for a bit, actually. Because, we talk about friendships, relationships, all of those, involving different kinds of people. So I was wondering, for you, what is a personality trait that is sort of like a deal breaker, whether that's in friendship or a romantic capacity?
I think anything that indicates to me that you're not someone I can trust or I can rely on is a deal breaker. So, because that means because I feel like friendships, any kind of relationship for me is built on trust. So if you kind of say something that and then do something else, so if you're being like hypocritical and not own up to it, that's a problem for me. It means like you don't have the balls, but it's like you don't reflect on your own actions enough. That means problems will come up in the future, because I'm somebody who really values like communication and honesty. So it's okay if you fuck up, or it's okay if you have done something wrong, as long as you acknowledge it and kind of talk about it openly. So I think a deal breaker for me is if somebody is dishonest or like unreliable, basically.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Dishonesty is such a huge, well, honesty, I guess you could say, is I think one of the most important component in any sort of relationship between two people, right?
Yeah.
And once you're dishonest, it can kind of put everything else into question.
Yeah. Like, you don't have to like tell me everything about you, but don't lie. I think that the intentionality is the most important thing behind it. Because if you mean good and you be like, oh, sorry, I fucked up, then I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But if you intentionally try to deceive me, then that's like a no-no.
Just wondering, so have you recently come across people like that in your life? Or is it just more like past, like a culmination of
experiences that made me decide this is something that's really important, and then this is kind of what I've been using to sort of like weed out the bad apples.
Yeah.
There are a lot of telltale signs now that I can see, like whenever I meet somebody, be like, okay, this person is untrustworthy. Like I can just tell, like just based on like first meeting or little things. Now I can tell, but obviously all those past experiences have led me to be able to come up with this like not set of like rules, but it's just like it's like a second nature to me now, almost. Like, okay, I know this person isn't trustworthy, so I just make sure to not trust them.
You know, I think that's why people say the older you get, the harder it is to make friends, because I think you experience so many different experiences when it comes to friendships that you are able to weed out, let's say, quote unquote, the bad ones for you very early on. So, and you know, it's much harder to find people that are like you and on your wavelength as you get older. And so, you know, being here in this city, like both of us, we kind of want to meet new people and make new friends, but at the same time, it's hard, right? I mean, it's easy in a way because you get to meet so many people, but to find like true friendship also is a journey in itself.
Yeah, and it's not like every single person you meet has to be your friend. It's just like, it's nice when you meet somebody that you connect with. But it's also really interesting because I think of it as like everybody you meet, you get to learn something from them, because I believe there's always something you have commonality over. So it doesn't necessarily need to be like, you know, soulmates or like soul sisters or whatever, but I think that's like a completely different kind of relationship than just a random person you meet. That completely went off the topic of what you asked me originally, but but yeah.
What do you want to accomplish by the end of 2020?
I think before COVID, things were pretty vague for me in every aspect. I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do. I didn't really know what path I was gonna go down. I knew I was doing my master's, and I knew that was gonna help me figure things out. But what exactly, I had no clue, and I was in the process of figuring it out. And I'm kind of, I guess, COVID is a blessing in disguise for me, because although things were like didn't go according to plan, I mean, I for one wasn't that fazed by it, because obviously I'm very lucky that I wasn't fired from a job, or I had like to worry about like financial struggles and stuff. I have a family that is very supportive, and I was able to focus on my studies and just focus on what I needed to do. And through that process, it really allowed me to network. It really allowed me to go do things that would help me figure out what I wanted to do, which is like to reach out to people in the industry, to participate in webinars, like to really work on myself. And so my goals kind of started to shape themselves during COVID, during the lockdown. So I figured out what I wanted to do. I figured out what I needed to do to get to where I wanted to go. So by the end of this year, I would like to have at least one short film idea established and apply to at least one open call or some things that can help me develop that film into existence. And I would like to establish a stable source of income. That's like the end of this year. And obviously graduate from a master's, which I accomplished.
Yes.
So that's I feel like I already accomplished like half of the stuff I told myself I was going to accomplish in that sense, which is nice. But yeah, I'm working on my next half, which is just like continuing to network and stuff. So I think I'll be able to do it by the end of 2020, because I feel like but something that I realized is like as long as I set my mind to it, to something, I will always be able to do it, because I think I'm just like because I am logical enough that once I set a goal for myself, I can like implement it, if that makes any sense. So
if this time wasn't given to us and life had just gone on, like you graduated and life was like boom 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 boom, would you think that you would have arrived at this earlier, or would have actually taken you a different direction?
I mean, it definitely would have taken me a different direction. In the same direction? I don't know. I feel like I can't answer that question because it didn't happen. So whatever would have happened, I would have no clue. I don't know. I'm not someone that likes to think of like what would have or what if this and that, because
there's no point.
There's no point. There's
no
no
point.
what if, because it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like what isn't present is not real. So why would you waste your time thinking about that stuff when you can just focus on what you're doing right now? But yeah, that's just what I think. I think
I agree.
that's the most efficient way to go about life. It's like, don't think about anything else that isn't in front of you. And
I totally live like that too.
Yeah. It just makes you happier too, because then you're not just overthinking stuff. And yeah, definitely. I get how it's easier said than done though, because a lot of people like to, I mean, I do that too sometimes, but when I really need to get my shit together, then no. Like, damn, that guy's so into it.
So you know how we talk about being Asian, Chinese specifically, living in all these different Western countries and everything. Do you feel more... Okay, this is not really the right way to phrase a question, but how do different parts of having Western culture and Eastern culture influence your lifestyle?
I think that my thinking is definitely has significantly been influenced by like Western culture because of my upbringing. Even though like I grew up in China, I was switched over to the international school when after elementary school. So that's when you actually start to develop who you are as an adult. So because of that, a lot of my thinking and logic wise, it's very Western, like specifically American, I would say. Pop culture and all that stuff. But then I still have a part of me that's very Chinese, because I grew up in China and I never really lived in the US. But then it's really interesting because I think that's something that to this day I cannot really answer for myself. That's something I'm constantly trying to figure out, which one am I? But I think there is no one. There's no one or the other. I think it's more like some aspects of me are very Chinese, some aspects of me are very Western, quote unquote. Because when
Speaking of which, it's almost autumn festival, right? Let's go buy some mooncake. I want to have mooncake.
Yeah, let's do it.
Wait, is it? When is it?
Let's Google that.
That's true.
I'm pretty sure it's like now or something.
Right? That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. But definitely I'm really happy about the fact that I am not like completely westernized, because I don't want to be somebody who forgets like her heritage.
Yeah.
Like knowing you're Chinese is not enough for me. Like I would like to keep speaking the language. I would like to like keep part of me internalized like Chinese. Like I'm trying to think of some examples. Like I would never ever let anyone go into my house like with their shoes on, and I'll always have chopsticks in my house. I mean that's like pretty basic stuff, but then it's like on one hand I can relate to like Asian Americans or like BBCs, but on another hand I also never grew up here, so there are a lot of struggles that are very specific to BBCs or Asian Americans that I never lived, but because of my Western influences I can relate to them. That's something that I also talked about in my film, which I made for my master's. So it's like the fact that I have this, my upbringing helped me relate to different experiences, even though I didn't live them. But it's kind of different for you, because I didn't spend like earlier parts of my life in a Western country. Yeah, I think pop culture played a significant role, and also the internet. Because then you could watch like TV show like Gossip. Like I grew up watching Gossip Girl, like 90210, that kind of thing, even though I was in China. So that idea that we grew up in this age of social media really affected the way that our identity is formed.
That actually leads me up to another question I have, which is because we not only do we travel a lot, but we actually settle in many different places quite often, right? In the past 15 years, I personally can say I've moved like 3-4 cities, different countries kind of thing. And so I was wondering, in what ways does culture shock manifest in your everyday life? And I wanted to bring this up because you mentioned how you pretty much grew up in China. However, you were consuming American pop culture. So when you moved from China to Boston for university, did that lessen your culture shock in a way, you think?
Yes, because I actually have spent a couple summers in the US before, so I was pretty familiar with how things were, but definitely the first time I went to the US was a complete culture shock to me. Just how individualistic everything is. I felt really isolated, for sure, the first time I went. I mean, I still did when I lived in the US for college and stuff, but at the same time I learned to like adapt to it. So yeah, adapting I think is a big thing. Like being like I can adapt very easily because I've been moving to different places at such a young age. Even though I lived in China, I did travel around quite a lot growing up. So yeah, adapting to new culture. I mean, things are still new, because I remember like when I lived in Nepal for like 4 months, I was so excited. Like I loved every single bit of it. Like nothing really fazed me. Like nothing was like, oh my god, I can't do this. You know how like
you were just more like really open to the new experiences rather than being I wouldn't say shock is the right word to use.
It's not shocking. It's like, oh my god, everything's so exciting.
Yeah.
Because
culture excitement.
I remember like one of the American girls from my school, fucking like we had these China trips in middle school and high school where we like travel to a different part of China, like more like a rural part, and then we would experience like different cultures and stuff. Because China is also really a diverse country in and of itself. There's like at least 56 like ethnic groups. Anyway, besides the point. So this one girl fucking brought like peanut butter and bread with her on the trip because she wouldn't like. She was like, I don't want to eat like this stuff, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like that's kind of what I mean by like people who like aren't open to like experiencing different things, because it's like, I don't know, there's things like that really bother the shit out of me, because for me it's like, okay, as long as I'm not allergic to something, as long as I'm not like yeah, as long as it's not like threatening me in like the biological, physical sense, like I'm open to trying it, even if I didn't like it. I'll find out then if I don't like it. But if you're just gonna like shut out any opportunities to learn new things or to expose yourself to new things, then I just don't. I just cannot really fathom like why.
Yeah. I feel like this conversation has been kind of speaking about things that we don't like, negativity and stuff. So I kind of want to end it on a good note.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
So I want to ask, what is something you really appreciate about life? For me, I've always appreciated the opportunities my parents have been able to give me. That's
Like being grateful.
That's being grateful. That's not. But a more newer appreciation I have in life is my the support I have from my friends.
I really appreciate life.
What do you really appreciate about life? Just life itself?
The fact that I'm here, the fact that I'm living, I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to live this life because I have learned so many things about the world, about myself, about different cultures. I was able to travel to different countries. I was able to learn new languages. I was able to try new foods. And that helped me learn more about myself. And I'm really grateful because sometimes you can't really explain how things make you feel sometimes. But then when you feel it, you're like, wow, what is that feeling? But I live for experiences that make me feel a certain way. And that's what I really appreciate about being in the present. And obviously like family, friends, I think, but mostly just like life. That sounds so fucking cliche and shit, but I don't really know how else to describe it.
I know what you mean. Sometimes I struggle between saying things that sound cheesy and cliche, but then I'm like, but this is how I really feel.
I've learned to like appreciate cliche stuff.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, because before, I don't know. Now I'm like all for it. I think this is another really cliche thing to say, but I really appreciate having gone to Nepal because that was kind of a turning point in my life where I decided that I didn't want to do medicine anymore, but it also really opened up my spirituality and being in tune with myself as a person, learning so much about myself. And so I think I'm really grateful for that experience, and now I think I definitely see life in a different way because of it.
That was a little bit about you, Candice. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for asking. Thanks for getting to know me. Bye.